Welcome to another Rooster Talk, where we speak with ASX companies and their leaders on an update that they may have on the projects in terms of what they've been doing. You know, it could be drilling results. Today, I've got Taruga Minerals here with me, Thomas Line, who just recently completed a coffee with Samso with us. They've just released some drilling results that they've got. So, Thomas, welcome back. It's your first time at Rooster Talk, but please share with us what the announcement means.
Thanks, Noel. Really nice to be here and share a little bit more information about the Wyacca Project. We're really excited about how the project's developing. The mineralised footprint continues to grow there, and we've got a lot of good targets that we're looking forward to getting back in and drilling very soon. So,
yeah, sorry to interrupt, but you know, I'm really interested because Wyacca was something that you guys announced that you had a discovery of such not long ago. And I've looked at some of the results, and it's part of your Mount Craig project. And it's really interesting in the sense that when you look at Mount Craig on your last announcement, it's mineralized from top to bottom. So I'm curious, and you did mention that you guys are primarily looking for copper. So yeah, so when we look at those numbers there, how significant is that, or does it lead you to better thinking of the project?
Yeah, definitely. The numbers are very significant, and they do guide us in our understanding of the project. And you know, we picked the Mount Craig project simply because it has such a long strike. There's 34 kilometres of strike from Morgans Creek to Wyacca at the north end. So Morgans Creek's at the southernmost end of the project, Wyacca's at the northernmost end of the project, and they're connected by a structure called the Warumba anticline, which strikes for 34 kilometres, and it has a really unusual clustering of copper mineralisation at the surface around that structure. So, you know, we've got over 60 historical copper workings and artisanal mines clustered around that major structure, the Warumba anticline, and there's never been a huge amount of drilling in the area. Any drilling that's been done has always been very shallow. None of the geophysical targets were ever tested or even known really at the times that the exploration was mainly being conducted. And we just saw a huge opportunity at the Mount Craig project for significant copper mineralisation near the surface. And there really aren't that many near surface copper plays of a scale like this anymore in the junior scope. So we're really excited by the project. Wyacca is the first place we chose to drill at the Mount Craig project for a number of reasons. One was it simply has the largest scale historical mining out of any of the prospects at Mount Craig. And it really has great access. You know, there's a public road, gazetted road, which is council maintained, which runs through the middle of the project. It's really easy to get to. It's flat. And you can see multiple units which are mineralized outcropping at the surface where the old timers sunk their shafts and pits in and mined copper from. So they were mining, really high grade copper back in the 1800s, about 40% run of mine grade. It was small tonnage, but that's what happens when you're mining things by hand with a pickaxe. You're able to mine a 40% run of mine grade, and the tonnage is generally quite small. But there really hadn't been any modern advanced exploration or what we would call systematic exploration at the prospect, and that's what we've set out to do at Wyacca since May 2021, and we've had some really good success over the short amount of time that we've spent there. We've drilled about 6,000 meters. We've hit high grade copper straight away. We continue to see good copper in our drilling and high grade copper, and we continue to expand the mineralized footprint. So we've gone from a few historical drill holes which had some low grade hits to seeing intercepts like 11 meters at 1.5% copper, 7 meters at 1.8% copper, and 5 meters at 2.4% copper. We're seeing individual meters up to 9.5% copper in chalcocite mineralization in the supergene zone. And really, this is kind of, in many ways, a typical sediment-hosted copper sequence where you see an outcropping gossan at the surface, which is running along the surface, which is outcropping at the surface where people sunk their mines into originally. It's very iron altered, and there's the green, beautiful green malachite in it. It stood out to people. That's why the old timers knew what it was. And then when you go a bit beneath that, you get into a black powdery chalcocite rich layer, and that's where you can get some really high grade supergene enrichment in that black powdery chalcocite. And that's why we call Powder Hill at Wyacca. You know, and if I could just jump over to the screen, jump over to the first figure in the announcement here and share my screen. So Powder Hill is at the northwest end of Wyacca. So this is the Wyacca Project. This is where we've drilled so far. This covers the whole strike of the drilling so far. And mineralisation is open along strike and across strike. You can see here that we've got 2.1 kilometres of drilling area so far that Taruga's done from up here at Powder Hill down past Warumba 19 to the eastern VTEM anomalies. And just to go back, the image that these drill results are on is a VTEM geophysical image. It's an early time geophysical image, and VTEM stands for versatile time domain electromagnetic geophysics. And basically, it's really good for mapping massive sulphides and sulphide bodies, and it's a very valuable tool. And this particular version of EM geophysics or electromagnetic geophysics is done via plane or helicopter, which flies over the ground to collect the data. So this generally an early time VTEM image will show shallow anomalies. So anomalies or sulfide bodies that you believe to be near the surface. And what you can see on this map in particular is that the initial and highest grade hits that we've had tend to sit around early time VTEM anomalies. So that's why this is a really good tool for looking at. And there are other early time VTEM anomalies which really haven't been tested properly yet. And I'll go into that very soon. So this is the main Wyacca strike. And we can see Warumba 19 here, where we're getting really primary copper mineralisation. So we're getting chalcopyrite, bornite is the main kind of copper mineral that we're seeing at depth here. And in the shallower levels, of course, we're also seeing the kind of malachites and the oxide copper minerals. But over at Powder Hill, 900 metres along strike from Warumba 19, we're seeing quite a different type of copper mineralisation. It's really dominated by chalcocite, which is a supergene copper mineral. And we call it Powder Hill because it, you know, when that ore comes up out of the ground, it's just black powder. You know, it's a really distinct looking material, and you know immediately what you're dealing with. So very, very interesting. You know, we're getting a sequence here that we tend to often see in sediment hosted copper, where you get the gossan at the surface, then you get the chalk with the malachite and oxides, and then you get the chalcocite as you get a little bit deeper in the supergene portion of the mineralization, like at Powder Hill. And then you get a bit deeper into the system and you start to get primary, what we call hypergene copper minerals like chalcopyrite and bornite. And bornite, of course, has that beautiful kind of iridescent rainbow-like different colors of purples and blues that come up on it. And the chalcopyrite's very kind of golden and rich looking. So they're beautiful looking copper minerals. And when you see them come up, you know, at grades like, you know, a meter at 5.8% at WCRC 21 here, when that meter at 5.8% copper came up, when we washed that in the sieve, you could just see the beautiful bornite and chalcopyrite in that chip was just, you know, really, really stunning, really stand out. And you know you're onto rich copper mineralization when you see that. And likewise, when we see this black powder up at Powder Hill come out, you know, it's very different to other rocks that we drill. The other rocks we drill, you see dust coming out of the cyclone on the drill rig. When you hit this black powder, we know immediately when there's no dust coming out of the cyclone, we know we've hit black powder, and you just get this kind of heavy, dense black powder coming out into the sample bag. And it's a nice moment because you know you're on the copper.
Thomas, when you look at your figure one and you're seeing the highs that are coincident with all your drilling or vice versa, does it give you guys extra technical information that allows you to chase other potential sites when you have these highs? Does it give you that confidence?
Absolutely. We're looking for, at an early stage program, first, second drill programs that you drill, you're looking for relationships between geophysics and mineralization that you can write rules for, that you can use in your exploration moving forward to help prioritize targets. And you don't know whether it's going to be a universal rule when you see relationships there, or whether it's going to be, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. And when we see that a lot of the high-grade mineralization we hit in our first program line up at the early time VTEM anomalies, well, we want to go and test the other ones that we haven't tested yet and see whether that's the case when we drill into any of these. And so in the recent program, we did drill or attempt to drill the next two along strike to the west, to the east. And we call these collectively the Eastern VTEM anomalies. And in figure 1, you can see that they are like little bullseye anomalies, with the strongest one being the far eastern one. The really interesting thing happens here. And where the first one is, that you can see Warumba 21 sits about 1.5 kilometers across strike from the main Wyacca strike, where this long, thin VTEM anomaly runs. So Warumba 21's across strike. You can see in that figure 1, there's a VTEM anomaly response heading out across strike from that bullseye there out to Warumba 21 mines. And that's interesting because it's running in the opposite direction to the other anomaly. And what that indicated to us from an early stage is that there must be a structure running through here. Now, the fact that there are also copper mines run along this indicate, again, that this must be a structure which is controlling mineralisation. So we set out to test these VTEM anomalies here and these Eastern VTEM anomalies. And what we found is that there is a major structure which runs through here up to Warumba 21 mines. And we drilled a hole to the east of this structure, and we tried to drill through the structure down to intercept the target unit, Tindelpina shale, at depth beneath it. And we drilled a 300-meter deep hole. This is, so as you step away from the outcrop, because the ore body is dipping, or the Tindelpina shale is dipping like this, the further away you step, the deeper you've got to drill to hit your target unit, right? And so we stepped out and we attempted to drill back in to intercept where the structure met the target unit. And we drilled through a 200-meter wide shear zone and breccia zone, indicating that this is a significant structure, which is having some serious influence on the geology of this area. And what we also noticed is that the target unit was not where we expected it to be. So all of the rocks on the west side of that structure dip at about 40 degrees, and they're quite shallow, and we can predict where that contact's going to be within a couple of meters of precision most of the time. However, when we step on the east side of that structure, which runs up to Warumba 21 mines, all of a sudden the dip becomes much less predictable. It becomes much steeper. So rather than you drilling a hole like this and hitting the rock there, it's dipping like that. So you think you'd assume you're going to hit it there, and you keep drilling, and then eventually you hit it. So it's a lot deeper, which means that the dip has steepened, and it's also been offset. So if that's the structure between my two hands, there's been a dislocation where the contact now is, it could be 10 or 15 meters offset from where it should be. And it's not continuous. It's been moved. And so that changes the predictability of where you're going to intercept that target horizon, where the mineralisation is going to be, and adds a layer of complexity to how precisely you can drill on this side. It also means that your RC rig can only drill to certain depths, right? Once you get past a certain depth, you really need a diamond rig to be able to go deeper. Some problems are with water, because you intercept groundwater, and that can become a problem at depth that diamond drills don't have an issue with. And there are other issues that RC rigs start to encounter, around 300 meters, sometimes less, that just make it impractical to continue drilling with that type of rig. So most of our drilling, all of our drilling so far has been RC, but we've realized in those Eastern VTEM anomaly areas, due to the dip change, steepening, and the deeper drilling required to test those targets properly, that we're going to need diamond drilling to be able to do that. Now, because diamond drilling is more expensive than RC drilling, it's the type of drilling that a lot of explorers will use. We've been lucky that we can use RC for most of our work because it is so cheap. Because it's slightly more expensive, we want to make sure that we put the holes in the right spot, and that we're doing precision drilling. And one of the things we're using now to try and separate out thick copper sulphide targets from noise created by pyritic shale. So I said earlier that VTEM picks up sulphide bodies, right? Sometimes massive. They're good for massive sulphides. They also pick up disseminated sulphides. And pyritic shales are quite common around copper deposits, sedimentary copper deposits. And pyrites are sulphide. It gives off the same signal as copper-bearing sulphides. So it's not economic but it masks sometimes the signal of economic copper mineralisation, like chalcopyrite and bornite. And so we want to separate out the thick copper-bearing sulphide targets from the noise created by the pyritic shales that surround them. And we're using a technique called plate modelling to use the VTEM data to identify where the most likely locations for these thicker sulphide targets are going to be. That work's currently underway, and that's going to allow us to do a more informed drilling program with the more expensive diamond drilling technique in these areas.
Okay. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I mean, it's as you say, right? It's early stage exploration, and as we all know, you know, exploration is a lot of luck and a lot of skill mixed in between, and hopefully you find the right mix, right? And but when I look at the your announcement and where the drilling is happening, one of the questions I have, I mean, you've answered most of the, you know, point questions. You have those 3 diagrams, and there's 3 different types of backgrounds. Maybe just give us a quick rundown on what that means, so people can actually understand what each figure is trying to say.
Yeah, sure. It's a really good question, and it's not immediately apparent to everyone. So the information on these 3 figures, figure 1 to figure 3 in the announcement, the drill information is the same. What's different is that there are 3 different VTEM images. One is an early time VTEM image, figure 1. The second image, figure 2, is a mid time, and the third image is late time. And basically, this is it's not exactly true, but in most cases, early time means a shallow target. If you get an anomaly in early time, it's a shallow, representing a shallow target. Mid time means somewhere between shallow and deep, and a late time anomaly generally is a deeper target or a basement target, some may call it. So if you get, in some cases, if you have an early time anomaly and you have a late time anomaly in the same location, that can just be noise from the shallow, and from the shallow anomaly dragging down, appearing to be at the late time as well, but it may not actually be deep, it might just be shallow, and it's dragging as the signal goes down. So it seems like it's it's early, mid, and late, or shallow, mid-depth, and deep all the way, but it might not be the case. However, if you get a late time anomaly, which was not an early time anomaly, you can be much more certain that there is a deep conductor or deep anomaly present there, because there was no noise at the surface to mask or to affect the late time signal. So we show these 3 things to show people how the sulphide body is moving and changing from shallow depths to deep depths. And if you look at figure 1, you can see a series of bullseyes which are separated but also connected by a lower level anomalism between them. Now this anomaly strikes for over 7 kilometers. We're only seeing about 3 kilometers of that in this image. And you can see that our highest grade copper hits have been over 2 of these bullseyes. Now, if you go to the second image, figure 2, you can see that as we get to a later time, those anomalies intensify, and you can see that they start to join together. And rather than being separated, they're merging together with a gap along where we've identified this structure that goes up to Arumba 21. You can see a gap starting to form, and we believe that represents a structure. And you can really see the far eastern VTEM anomaly is intensifying, the most. It is the most intense out of all of these. Now, if we go down to the third figure, figure 3, this is the late time VTEM image. You can see that there's been a real expansion of the size of the intensified anomaly in the eastern side, both along strike and across strike. And there's a lot more of the purple color, which is the higher response. And basically, this indicates to us that there's some form of sulfide body there, which is causing this intensified anomaly, this intensified result. So it's one of the reasons we're really interested in that area, and we are definitely going to be doing more drilling in that area. Another thing to point out to people is that in this late time anomaly, everywhere where we've hit the best grade copper, doesn't have a very strong response, right? Now, the reason for that is that, as I said, all the geology is dipping like this. So when you've got an early time VTEM anomaly, you're getting response from where the sulphides are at the surface, which is along where the mineralisation is that we've hit with shallow drilling. As you go to a later time anomaly, the sulphide body's moving down and away from the outcropping mineralisation with the dip. And so you expect to see that VTEM anomaly is going to move progressively in the direction of dip over time as you get deeper and deeper, and you can see that perfectly here. And what this shows us is that the most prospective unit, which is the Tindelpina shale, must be dipping for a very long time and must be very large. The extent of this anomaly across strike is 750 to 1,000 meters. So it indicates that if you get onto the right structure where the Tindelpina shale is mineralized, and you can trace those structures, you could be seeing, a kilometer of across strike mineralization. And this is the reason why we're targeting these structures and trying to understand exactly where they go, where they start and where they finish. And it's the reason that we want to get more value out of the VTEM data by doing the plate modeling, which will help us to identify and separate potential thick copper sulfide targets from just the noise of pyritic shales in general.
Well, mate, I think you've just got a lot of people excited, and they're going to be calling you to shift your drill rigs to that purple patch. Yeah, but look, Tom's Tech, look, it's fantastic. It's a good update. It's just, when I look at a lot of these announcements, it's always good to get, like you guys to explain what you're trying to show, and I think that's a very compelling story. Look, Thomas, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to shout out to potential investors out there? What Taruga is going to be doing for the next, 12 months?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we're going to be doing lots of drilling, basically. Yeah, that's over the next 12 months. I mean, the diamond rig is on the way at the moment. We expect to start diamond drilling at Wyacca in the next week. And when we're finished diamond drilling at Wyacca, we're going to be going to Morgan's Creek and doing some diamond drilling there as well. So we expect to see have some interesting times over the next couple of weeks as we get that diamond rig spinning. And when the diamond rig is finished at Wyacca and Morgan's Creek, the plan is to get the RC rig back in and do more RC drilling. We've learned a lot at Wyacca. We've learned a lot at Morgan's Creek. We want to put that those learnings into action as soon as possible, and get some more RC holes in the ground and do more exploration and test more of these new targets that we've identified from what we've learned from the drilling that we've done.
All right, great. Like I said, thank you, Thomas. Great talking to you. And let's just keep following the journey.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Noel. Really appreciate your time, and look forward to the next one.